for the most part, people in Las Vegas prefer an expansion team. They do not, they prefer an expansion team over a relocated Oakland Athletics franchise. And when I say majority, I'd say about, I would dare guess 2/3 to 70%, if you had to take a poll, would say that they would prefer an expansion team that we don't even, expansion's not even approved yet. We don't even know, they haven't approved I mean, there's been a lot of talk about going from 30 to 32 teams, but it's not officially done. But even without a done deal on expansion, people in Las Vegas would prefer an expansion team at an unknown time than the Athletics moving to Las Vegas.
That was literally the next topic I wanted to get into. And so why is that? I mean, you say the preference is that. Why would an expansion team maybe be better suited for Las Vegas? Because it's more than a preference thing, right? Why would that work better?
Well, the perfect thing about your question, Brody, is that we have a real life example of expansion versus relocated team.
You have two of them right now, right?
Right,
Yeah.
From Oakland, in fact. The Vegas Golden Knights are really one of the most amazing expansion stories, not only in the history of the NHL, but in the history of sports. And, they had that magical run in the first year, right to the Stanley Cup final. There was also the community connection because of the mass grief this market went through because of the killings on the Strip, October 1st. And the Vegas Golden Knights just, sorry about the stupid baseball cliche, hit it out of the ballpark in terms of bonding with the community. So building a team from scratch. And what's fascinating about the Golden Knights, Brody, is that you're talking about a team that has a medieval theme, which has nothing to do with the desert or any history in Las Vegas, but it goes to show the power of branding and the power of the emotional connection between the brand and the people here. It didn't matter what you really call them. The point is they were started from scratch and they were considered Las Vegas's own. And I think that meant a lot. Now, on the other hand, you had the Raiders. And if you had to have a relocated team to Las Vegas, the Raiders were the perfect team. They had a built-in fan base, both in North and Southern California.
Right.
They have a national brand. And all the teams that come here to Las Vegas, they bring all their fans.
Right.
50% of the fans who come here are from the other market. And in some way, it almost functions as a user fee. And here's why. Even though the public is financing their share of the construction bill for the Raiders Stadium through a hotel room tax, it's the people who are visiting for Raider games who are paying that tax. It's kind of like a user fee, if you will. I mean, officially, it's a hotel room tax.
But didn't Mark Davis complain about that, though, when he's running a team and he sees maybe the home field advantage go away?
He did complain, but you know what? It would really behoove Mark to actually put a winning team on the field. I mean, when you go 6-11, you're probably not going to have a lot of local fans. Right. And honestly, here in Las Vegas, if you broke down the fan, allegiance, it's balkanized across the board. I mean, we have fans who root for everyone from the Rams and the Chargers to the 49ers, to the Broncos. Even Dolphins, Giants, Las Vegas is a very transient, very loosey-goosey, evolving community here. So, in terms of like Raider fans who are already here in Las Vegas, I mean, there were definitely some, but, you could not fill, that stadium with 62,000 local Raider fans.
If we go back to the expansion versus relocation thing for just a second, is it a matter, though, that if expansion happens, Las Vegas as a community not only gets to start a franchise from scratch, but maybe they have more say in what they're actually working with? I mean, look,
I think
the A's are pre-existing. I mean, they come as they are, as advertised. I refer to it as almost like a suit. You could buy one off the rack, and maybe you like everything about it. Maybe you like some things and don't like others, versus a custom-made suit. I don't know if you've ever had a custom-made suit, but everything about it is just how you wanted it.
Right. So not only are you buying you're buying the suit off the rack.
Right.
It's kind of a ratty suit with like a lot of holes and it doesn't really fit you too well and stuff. I mean, that's what people are looking at the Athletics. You're looking at a team. The perception is that you have owner Fisher, who's basically liquidating the assets of the team. And the team is not doing very well in the standings. And that's what you want Las Vegas to buy into versus an expansion franchise where I think the government officials would believe that there's not only the emotional investment involved, it would justify the financial investment.
So the A's biggest competition in Las Vegas right now is something that doesn't even exist yet. Would be an expansion franchise. Would you say is that a safe comment to make?
I think so, and especially that seems to be the preference.
Yeah, and fans think that way. To your belief, do you think the lawmakers are on that same page too? Or
well,
no?
you've touched on a really fascinating topic, and I learned something very insightful about this from the get-go when I started covering this topic about the whole convergence of politics and government public policy and teams that want money for a stadium. And I go back to 25 years ago when the Denver Broncos and Pat Bowlen wanted literally they wanted about $265 million toward a stadium. Guess what happened? If remember, you're a good sports guy. The Broncos won not one but two Super Bowls in a row back then, and it influenced the emotionality of the team's performance. I thought, you want to think that government public policy is cut and dry, and that you're looking at it in a very impartial, analytical way, but state lawmakers are emotional beings as well. And I think they're influenced subjectively to a certain degree by the performance of the team or even their own connection or any feeling about the sport or what have you. And it does, I think, subconsciously finds its way into the way the sausage is fashioned, so to speak, behind the scenes. So
yeah.
I think that there is at some degree some emotional level, and that is why I cover this topic, Brody. It is,
I know.
It's a fascinating convergence of sports and emotions and people's allegiances and sense of town and sense of self and just a sense of identity for your team. I can only imagine. I've never lived in Oakland, but both the Athletics and the Raiders had fascinating personas that I thought typified and was emblematic of those markets. And I think that's why you hear, and that's why the Raider fans still come. The team has been atrocious. As you know, for the last 20 years, they've literally had the second worst record in the National Football League, but yet they have such immense fan loyalty for the Raiders. And the Athletics, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like maybe the numbers are not as high as the Raiders, but that same sense of pride and intensity toward their allegiance with the Athletics is there too. And the Athletics have had very colorful teams. Demographically, you have age groups that remember the Athletics from the 70s and 80s. Same thing with the Raiders, where you have people in their 50s and 60s who have this amazing connection to this franchise. It must be heartbreaking for people to not only lose the Raiders, but also the Athletics back to back with teams that had such funny, emotional players and characters who people probably could relate to on a personal level.
Alan, welcome to my world. But that's a separate video for the channel here.